Let me tell you something. Life ain't fair, but it's still yours. You woke up this morning, didn't you? Then that means God's not done writing your story. See, too many folks quit before the miracle. They pack up the dream because it didn't come wrapped in comfort. You think success shows up in a limousine. No, it comes in traffic with flat tires and a half-empty gas tank. But if you've got faith the size of a mustard seed, if you can look at what's broken and still say, I ain't done yet, then you already winning. Life ain't fair, but it's still yours. Every single morning that you open your eyes, that breath you take, that heartbeat in your chest, that's proof that your purpose still has work to do. You might not have everything you prayed for yet, but that doesn't mean you've been forgotten. Sometimes the delay is the blessing. Sometimes God's silence ain't rejection, it's preparation. He's shaping you in the dark so that when the light finally hits, you're ready to stand in it. Attempt. See, people always want the spotlight, but they don't understand that the light exposes everything. You gotta be built strong enough to handle being seen, strong enough to keep standing when the applause stops. You can't pray for a platform and not be ready for pressure. God doesn't give you greatness without growth. And growth don't come easy. Growth comes through tears, through nights where you're staring at the ceiling asking, why me? And mornings when you drag yourself out of bed with a whisper of faith left in your soul. That whisper, that tiny I still believe, that's where miracles begin. You can't expect the road to be smooth when you're carrying divine purpose. The enemy doesn't attack empty vessels. He only attacks the ones filled with potential. Every obstacle in your way is not proof that you're failing. It's proof that you're on the right path. If everything was easy, you wouldn't need faith. Faith ain't just believing when the sun is shining. It's holding on when the storm is tearing through your roof. Faith is standing in the rain and still thanking God for water. It's walking through fire and still praising Him for warmth. You gotta learn how to see beyond the pain, because pain is temporary, but purpose is eternal. Every trial that breaks you is really molding you, shaping you into the version of yourself that can handle the blessing that's coming. God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't allow storms for no reason. If He brought you to it, He plans to bring you through it. You just got to keep walking, even when your feet are bleeding, even when your heart is heavy, because the moment you stop moving, that's when the enemy starts winning. See, people give up too soon. They want harvest season, but don't want to plow the field. They want to shine, but don't want to sweat. You can't get to the promise without walking through the process. The desert always comes before the destination. You might feel lost right now, wandering, praying for a sign, but the truth is, God's leading you through the wilderness on purpose. He's stripping away what can't go with you. Not everybody who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Some people were only meant to be lessons, not lifelong partners. Some losses are really redirections. God will close doors that lead nowhere and open windows you didn't even know existed. But you got to keep your eyes on Him, not on what you've lost. Because sometimes He removes things not to punish you, but to protect you. That relationship that ended, that job that fell apart, that plan that failed, you thought it was the end, but it was just a divine reroute. You can't see it yet. But one day you'll look back and say, thank you for not giving me what I wanted. You got to stop comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. Everyone's journey looks different. Some people bloom early, some bloom late, but when your season comes, no one can stop it. God's timing ain't your timing, but His timing is perfect. He's never late. He's just setting the stage. You think He forgot about you because it's taking too long. No, He's aligning the right people, the right doors, the right moment. And when it all comes together, it's going to be so big that you'll understand why it had to take time. Every no, every setback, every delay will make sense. But until then, you got to praise Him while you wait, because praise in the middle of pain is what unlocks breakthrough. Worship when it hurts. Pray when you're tired. Smile when you're broken. That's real strength. You can't live a blessed life without learning how to be tested. The test is proof of your faith. It's easy to say you trust God when everything's good, but what about when the bills pile up, when the diagnosis comes, when the people you trusted walk away? That's when your faith gets real. That's when you find out if your belief is rooted in convenience or conviction. Real faith says, even if I lose it all, I still believe. Real faith says, even if the door doesn't open, I'm still knocking. Real faith says, even if it hurts, I'm still walking. And let me tell you, when you have that kind of faith, heaven takes notice. God leans in when he hears persistence in your prayer. He doesn't respond to pity. He responds to perseverance. You can't just cry about it. You got to move about it. Pray, then get up and act like it's already done. Speak it like it's already yours. That's the power of faith. That's the language of favor. The reason some people never step into their blessing is because they stop believing right before it arrives. Tempt. They dig 9 feet into the ground and quit when the treasure was buried at 100. Don't be that person. When you feel like giving up, that's usually the moment right before breakthrough. That's why the pressure gets heavier, because you're close. The enemy fights hardest when he knows you're about to win, but you got to push through that pressure. You got to pray through that pain. Keep your eyes on the promise, not the problem. God didn't bring you this far to abandon you. He didn't wake you up today to let you fail. There's a purpose breathing inside you, and it's stronger than the pain trying to stop you. So when the world tells you you can't, whisper to yourself, but God can. When fear tells you it's over, remind yourself that God has the final word. When doubt creeps in, shout faith louder. Because when you walk with God, you don't walk alone, and no storm lasts forever. Some people pray for the blessing, but when it knocks on the door dressed like hard work, they pretend they're not home. Everybody wants the promise, but nobody wants the process. You can't sit still waiting for miracles while ignoring the work that makes them possible. God doesn't drop success in your lap like a gift. He hides it inside your grind. Every seed you plant in faith, every tear you cry in silence, every time you show up when it's hard, that's the work that brings the blessing. You can't pray for rain and then complain about the mud. If you want the harvest, you have to be willing to get your hands dirty. That's how God separates the talkers from the walkers. The blessing doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who work while they wait. See, a lot of people think faith means sitting around hoping something changes. But real faith moves. Real faith says, I might not see it yet, but I'm going to act like it's already on the way. Faith without work is dead because it's not faith, it's fantasy. If you want God to move mountains, start climbing. He'll meet you halfway. You can't ask him for strength and never pick up the weight. You can't ask him for opportunity and never step out of your comfort zone. You can't expect favor without obedience. Sometimes the hardest part of the blessing is being ready for it. God won't give you what you pray until you can handle it. He won't open the door until you've built the character to walk through it without pride. He's not denying you, he's developing you. Every season of waiting is a season of working on your attitude, your consistency, your gratitude. Because when the blessing shows up, you need to be mature enough to keep it. You got to stop running from hard things. The moment it gets difficult, most people say, maybe this isn't for me. No, maybe this is exactly for you. Maybe that resistance is proof that it matters. The enemy doesn't fight people going nowhere. If you're being attacked, it's because you're dangerous to the darkness. Keep working even when you don't see progress. Keep showing up even when it feels pointless. Every time you move forward in faith, heaven takes notice. God rewards movement, not murmuring. The Israelites didn't get to the promised land by talking about it. They walked there step by step through sand, heat, and doubt. Sometimes your miracle is just one more step of obedience away. And let me tell you something, the blessing rarely looks like the blessing at first. Sometimes it comes wrapped in struggle. Sometimes it looks like rejection or loss or heartbreak. But when you keep working through it, when you trust that God is still writing the story, that's when you start to see how everything fits together. The job you lost wasn't a curse. It was a setup for something bigger. The door that closed didn't end your story. It protected your destiny. God disguises his gifts because he wants to see who has enough faith to unwrap them. Most people walk away before they even realize they're holding the answer to their prayer. Don't be one of them. Keep digging, keep building, Keep believing. When God puts something in your heart, that dream isn't just an idea. It's an assignment. You're not supposed to bury it because life got hard. You're supposed to water it with effort, protect it with prayer, and feed it with perseverance. And yes, there will be days when you feel like it's not working. Days when you question if God's even listening. But let me remind you, He's not deaf to your grind. Every small act of faith is noticed. Every sleepless night you keep pushing forward is counted. You might not see the fruit yet, but the roots are growing. God's not ignoring your effort. He's preparing your elevation. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs come right after the hardest seasons of work. When you feel exhausted, when you've done all you can and still don't see results, that's when God steps in. That's when He multiplies what's left. He's not asking you to do everything. He's asking you to do your part. He'll take your 5 loaves and 2 fish and turn them into overflow. But He won't bless what you won't bring. You can't expect a miracle from empty hands. Bring your effort, your faith, your persistence, and watch Him breathe on it. The reason He hasn't moved yet might be because He's waiting for you to move first. So when the door doesn't open, don't just stand there crying, knock louder. When the opportunity doesn't show up, create one. When life gets heavy, don't drop your dream, strengthen your back, because what God has for you is not fragile. It's not going to break because times get hard. You can't pray like a warrior and then work like a worrier. You got to fight for your faith, not just feel it. Every great story in Scripture started with someone willing to do something, to step out, to trust, to act even when it didn't make sense. That's how you turn prayer into power. And when people see your success later, they'll think it happened overnight. They won't see the nights you stayed up praying, the sacrifices, the heartbreak, the sweat. But God saw it all. He recorded every tear, every step, I'll try again tomorrow. And one day, when the blessing finally breaks through, He'll remind you, it was never luck, it was faith, it was effort, and it was grace. Because blessings don't fall out of the sky. They rise from the ground you worked, the prayers you whispered, and the faith you refused to lose. You got to answer that door, even when it's raining, even when you're tired, even when nobody's clapping for you. Because life will test you when no one's watching. It's easy to believe when people are cheering, but faith gets real in silence. When the applause fades, when the lights go out, when you've got nothing but your prayer left, that's when your strength shows up. You can't wait for perfect conditions to move. If you're waiting for everything to make sense, you'll be waiting forever. God doesn't need perfect conditions. He creates them. All He needs is your yes. All He needs is a heart willing to trust, even when it's trembling. Some of the most powerful doors open not because you were ready, but because you were willing. Willing to step out, willing to believe, willing to keep going when everything in you screams stop. You see, faith is not about feeling strong all the time. Sometimes faith is walking with weak knees, but steady steps. It's dragging your broken heart through another day because you believe there's still purpose in your pain. That's courage, not the absence of fear, but the decision to move anyway. When you show up tired, when you push through exhaustion, when you do the right thing, when nobody's thanking you, heaven takes notice. God doesn't measure your effort by perfection. He measures it by persistence. That's why He blesses those who don't quit. Every step of obedience, every silent act of faith, every tear you shed while doing good, it's all adding up. You might not see the results yet, but the reward is already written. The world loves to celebrate success, but God celebrates endurance. Anybody can praise when it's easy. Real worship happens when you've lost everything and still say, God, I trust you. That's when faith becomes power. That's when heaven moves. The angels don't lean in when you win. They lean in when you refuse to quit. Because your endurance glorifies God more than your comfort ever could. That's why you can't give up just because it's hard. Hard doesn't mean hopeless. Hard means holy ground. It means you're in the exact place where transformation is happening. God will never build you through ease. He builds you through endurance. When you keep showing up despite the pain, you're telling the enemy he doesn't control your story. You're proving that your faith is stronger than your fear. And let me tell you something, the enemy hates that. He can take your money, your friends, your plans, but he can't touch your faith unless you hand it to him. So guard it, protect it. When life starts shaking, hold your faith tighter. When people walk out, hold it tighter. When the future looks dark, hold it tighter. Because faith is not a feeling, it's your foundation. You can rebuild your life on it, no matter how many times it breaks. Stop waiting for people to validate your journey. Some of the greatest moves of God in your life will happen with no audience. You won't get applause. You won't get recognition, but you'll get strength. You'll get wisdom. You'll get peace that doesn't make sense. That's God's reward system. Quiet, powerful, eternal. Don't confuse visibility with value. Just because no one sees your effort doesn't mean it's wasted. The same God who watches the sparrow fall is watching you rise. He sees every time you choose faith over fear, love over bitterness, obedience over comfort. And he's keeping score not to punish you, but to promote you at the right time. Some of you are standing in front of doors that look locked, but they're only waiting for a knock. God won't open doors for people too scared to approach them. You gotta move, you gotta act. The miracle is not in the waiting, it's in the walking. Faith unlocks what fear hides. When you take that step, even when you don't see the staircase, you give God permission to move in your life. He can't bless what you're not brave enough to begin. You don't have to see the whole picture. Just trust the painter. He already knows the masterpiece he's making with your life. And don't be afraid to start small. The first step is always the hardest because it's the one that requires the most faith. But once you take it, you'll feel something shift inside you. That's momentum. Holy momentum. God honors movement. When he sees effort, he adds favor. When he sees faith in motion, he sends miracles in motion. But you got to move even when your knees are shaking, even when your faith feels fragile, because obedience is louder than fear. When you do that, when you answer the door despite the storm, something divine happens. God meets you there. Right at the intersection of effort and belief, he shows up. Not always with lightning and thunder, sometimes just with peace, the kind that doesn't make sense. And once you feel that peace, once you experience what happens when you move by faith and not by sight, you'll never be the same. You'll stop waiting for the world's approval because you'll know heaven's already clapping for you. You'll stop asking, why me? And start saying, thank you for choosing me. Because the rain wasn't there to drown you. It was there to wash away everything that wasn't meant to stay. Because one day, the same people who doubted you're going to ask, how did you do it? And you gonna smile and say, I didn't, he did. That's the moment when everything makes sense. Every tear, every trial, every sleepless night becomes part of your testimony. God loves using the underestimated. He loves raising up the ones who were counted out because that's how his glory shines the brightest. When people say you'll never make it, he says, watch what I do with this one. The same folks who walked away when you were struggling are going to have to watch you eat at a table they weren't invited to. But don't get bitter. Don't seek revenge. You don't have to prove anything. Your elevation will do that for you. God's blessings speak louder than your words ever could. See, success is not about showing off. It's about showing up. When you keep your heart humble, God keeps pouring favor. The moment pride steps in, the blessing steps out. So when your breakthrough comes, and it will come, don't forget who brought you there. Don't act like you did it on your own. Because if you look back, you'll realize there were moments you didn't have the strength, the resources, or the answers, yet somehow you made it through. That wasn't luck. That was grace. That was mercy. That was a God who refused to let go of you, even when you were ready to let go of yourself. You see, when God blesses you, it's never just for you. It's so you can be a living reminder that he still works miracles. People are watching your journey right now, waiting to see how you respond to pressure. They want to see if you'll quit or if you'll keep believing. And when you keep standing tall through the storm, you give them permission to believe too. Your story might be the seed that grows someone else's faith. That's why you can't give up. It's bigger than you. Your survival might be somebody else's inspiration. Your victory might be somebody else's turning point. That's why you can't stay silent when the blessing comes. You got to testify. You got to tell people what God did, because your praise becomes a prophecy for someone else's breakthrough. Don't ever be ashamed of how far you've come. People will see the glory, but they'll never know the story. They'll see the shine, but not the scars. They'll see the confidence, but not the nights you cried yourself to sleep. But that's okay. You don't owe the world an explanation. You owe God your gratitude. Every time you think about what you've overcome, whisper a thank you, because that gratitude is what keeps the blessing flowing. The same God who brought you through the valley will walk with you on the mountain. But don't forget, the mountain is not the finish line, it's the platform. He raised you up so others can see what faith looks like in motion. And when those people come to you, the same ones who used to doubt, asking how you made it, tell them the truth. Tell them it wasn't your power, it was your prayer. It wasn't your plan, it was His promise. You didn't get lucky, you got lifted. Tell them about the nights you wanted to quit, but chose to believe. Tell them about the days you didn't see a way, but kept walking anyway. Because that's how God gets His glory, through your obedience, through your persistence, through your story. The world loves a comeback story, but God loves a redemption story. He specializes in taking broken things and making them beautiful. You were never too lost for Him to find, never too damaged for Him to restore. The reason you went through what you did wasn't to destroy you. It was to display Him. When people see you now, smiling, glowing, walking in purpose, they'll have no choice but to say, there's something different about you. And you'll know exactly what it is. Favor. Not the kind you can earn, not the kind you can fake, but the kind that follows those who keep faith when everything else falls apart. So don't chase validation. Don't chase applause. Chase obedience, because obedience opens doors that talent can't. When you walk with God, you don't have to promote yourself. He'll do it for you. He'll put your name in rooms your feet haven't even entered. He'll make people talk about you in meetings you weren't invited to. He'll turn your pain into platform, your weakness into weapon, your rejection into redirection. And when it happens, remember what you prayed for when nobody was watching. Remember how far He's carried you. Because every blessing you're standing in now is a receipt of every prayer you prayed in the dark. So when the spotlight finds you, stay humble. When the doors swing open, stay grateful. When people finally see your worth, remember He saw it first. And when you tell your story, tell it with fire, tell it with faith, tell it like someone who's been through the valley and made it out shining, not because you were perfect, but because you were chosen. So before you give up, pause. Wipe your tears, stand tall, and keep walking, because life doesn't break you to destroy you. It breaks you to rebuild you stronger. Every storm that hits your life is not a punishment, it's preparation. God will shake everything around you, not to scare you, but to shift you. He'll remove people who were blocking your growth. He'll close doors that were too small for your destiny. He'll let things fall apart so He can put them back together the right way. You might not understand it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that every disappointment was divine direction. You weren't losing, you were being positioned. You weren't being delayed. You were being developed, because God doesn't waste pain. He recycles it into purpose. You got to stop treating pain like a prison. Pain is a teacher. It shows you who you are when everything else is stripped away. It reveals your strength, your faith, your endurance. Attempt. Some of your greatest growth will come from your deepest hurt. The struggle teaches you how to pray different, how to love deeper, how to fight smarter. It teaches you that strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from surviving what was meant to break you. You learn that peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the presence of God in the middle of one. That's why you can't give up in the middle of your process. The same storm that looks like it's drowning you is the same one that's washing away everything that can't go with you to your next level. Sometimes God lets you hit rock bottom so you can discover that He is the rock at the bottom. When you've got nothing left, that's when you realize He's all you ever needed. You learn how to depend on Him in a way that comfort could never teach you. And when you come out of that valley, you don't just walk out, you rise. You rise with more wisdom, more strength, more fire, because pain doesn't leave you empty, it leaves you evolved. Every scar on your soul is proof that you've survived something meant to destroy you. You wear them like medals, not wounds. They're your testimony that God still brings beauty from ashes, that he still turns mourning into dancing, that he still resurrects what looks dead. Don't mistake the waiting for abandonment. God's silence is not absence. When you can't hear him, that's when he's working the hardest. You don't need to see the blueprint to trust the builder. He's setting things up behind the scenes, arranging people and moments like puzzle pieces that will fit perfectly when the time is right. You're not forgotten. You're being refined. Attempt fire doesn't destroy gold, it defines it. Every trial you go through is burning away what's fake so the real you can shine. That's why sometimes you lose people, plans, positions, because the version of you that's coming can't carry the weight of what's old. Don't cry over what he's removing. Celebrate what he's revealing. And don't underestimate what God can do with broken pieces. He can take the fragments of your life and make something unshakable out of it. You think it's over, but he's just getting started. The same hands that allowed the storm are the ones ready to calm it. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," is the one whispering, "Keep going." You can't see it yet, but there's glory waiting on the other side of your pain. You'll thank him one day for every tear, every delay, every detour, because it all pushed you closer to your destiny. The truth is, God never promised it would be easy. He promised it would be worth it. You were never meant to live comfortable. You were meant to live called. And being called means being stretched. It means walking by faith when sight makes no sense. It means trusting that every no is making room for a bigger whereas. It means believing that even when it feels like everything's falling apart, something greater is falling into place. So when life hits you hard, don't fold, focus. Don't let pain turn you bitter, let it make you bolder. Every setback is an invitation to deeper faith. Every loss is an opportunity for resurrection. You might be walking through fire right now, but remember, gold only shines after it's been through the flame. You might feel buried, but seeds do too. You're not buried, you're planted. And when the time is right, you're going to bloom in a way that makes every dark season make sense. Because the same God who allowed the storm is the one who controls the sunrise, and he's already written your comeback, because sometimes the tunnel ain't dark. It's just you stepping into your purpose. The reason it feels heavy is because greatness has weight. Purpose isn't light, it's pressure shaped by divine hands. God doesn't give small assignments to strong people. He strengthens you through the assignment. That ache in your chest, that restlessness that won't let you quit, that's not frustration, that's calling. You're feeling the stretch of destiny pulling you towards something bigger than your comfort zone. The darkness isn't punishment, it's the womb of transformation. You're not losing yourself, you're being reborn into who you were always meant to be. Every person chosen for something great has had to walk through something hard. You can't be anointed and untouched. Oil only flows when the olive is crushed. Diamonds only form under pressure. Gold only shines when refined by fire. You keep asking God to use you, but he can't use you without molding you, and molding hurts. It's lonely, confusing, and uncomfortable. But that's how you grow wings, in the cocoon, not in the crowd. People will walk away, doors will close, the applause will stop, because purpose requires silence. It requires solitude. That's where God whispers, "Now that I've got your attention, let me show you who you are." And who you are is not what happened to you. You're not your mistakes, not your failures, not your past. You're who God says you are, chosen, favored, equipped. Stop measuring yourself by where you've been and start measuring yourself by what he's building in you. The pain that broke you is the same pain that's about to birth power. The tears that fell weren't wasted. They were watering your next season. You think the tunnel is dark, but God's actually covering you, protecting the process until you're ready to be revealed. That's why you can't rush the timing. You can't demand the stage when God's still working on your strength. He's not denying you, he's developing you. Every season of struggle has a reason. God is preparing you for rooms that your character has to be ready to stand in. He's teaching you how to carry peace when pressure comes. He's building humility so that success doesn't destroy you. He's aligning your steps so that when opportunity shows up, you'll walk through it with confidence instead of fear. You're not behind, you're in training. Don't confuse development with delay. Just because you don't see results yet doesn't mean nothing's happening. Seeds grow in silence. Caterpillars transform in darkness. Miracles form in the unseen. What God is doing in private will soon be undeniable in public. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep showing up. Every time you move in faith, you move closer to the version of yourself that God designed. Don't get distracted by other people's timelines. Your destiny has its own clock. When it's time, no force on earth can stop what He's already written for you. And when it happens, it'll make sense why you had to crawl before you could run, why you had to cry before you could smile again, why you had to lose before you could learn what truly matters. Because purpose isn't about ease, it's about evolution. There's a reason the tunnel comes before the light. It's not to break you, it's to prepare your eyes to recognize the brightness when it arrives. Some people walk out of their purpose because they mistake the dark for defeat. But the dark is where faith gets real. The dark is where you find God's hand guiding you, even when you can't see His face. You might not know where you're going, but He does. And that's enough. Every step you take in that tunnel echoes in heaven. Every time you whisper, I trust you, even when it hurts, you move closer to the promise. And when you finally step out of that tunnel, you'll realize you didn't just survive, you transformed. You'll see that what was meant to break you built you. You'll understand that the darkness wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something divine, because that tunnel wasn't just a path. It was a passage, a sacred space where God exchanged your fear for faith, your pain for purpose, and your tears for testimony.